Hi, my name is Adam, and welcome to Rubicon. This is a podcast where we discuss real estate and business, and our goal is to equip you with all the tools that you need so that you can successfully start a real estate or a business, and that when you get to that point of no return, that you aren't freaking out, but instead you feel calm, cool, and capable. Today, we're going to be rounding out our video series of the people that you need on your real estate investment team. So we started off with mortgage brokers, then real estate agents, then home inspector, and today we're going to be talking the last person you'll need on your team, the lawyer. Now, to be perfectly honest, the lawyer is probably the person you're going to engage with the least with any house purchase. However, they do have one of the most important jobs. So when you sit down with your lawyer, typically it's going to be after the offer's made and after you're basically just signing contracts. Typically, you're not there with the seller, you're just there with your lawyer, and he's just going to have a whole bunch of papers that are tabbed, and you're just going to have to sign. What's really important in this stage is just making sure that you have a very thorough and very detail-oriented lawyer. For example, when I went with my lawyer, I noticed that there were a lot of details of my contract that him and his staff had both missed, even though these were details that were clearly included in my emails. So it's really important that if you think there are any clauses that are in your contract that are exceptional or a little out of the ordinary, or just anything other than boilerplate, regular stuff in your contract, that you bring this up with your lawyer and you make a list of those things yourself, and you specifically make sure that you go through each one of those listed items and say, is this in there? Show me where that is. Is this other detail in there? Show me where that is. For example, when I bought my house, one of the things that came up was I had a construction holdback. And so let me explain what a construction holdback was. There were a few items that came up in the inspection that were deemed safety issues, and the seller offered to fix them himself. So to make sure that the seller followed through on that commitment, we decided to put a few $1,000s into an escrow account, which is basically a fancy word for a neutral account, or it sits in a bank account that our lawyers have control over. When the seller completes the work, that's when the funds will be released to him. When I bought my house, we used a construction holdback. Funds were put in that bank account, not to be released to the seller until they had completed the work they promised to do. Now, of course, the seller didn't complete the work, which meant that I was entitled to the construction holdback. Two things happened here. One, my lawyer actually didn't notice that I had a construction holdback until I mentioned it. Now, fortunately, I mentioned this before money really started transferring hands, but because I had a feeling that the seller wasn't going to be completing the work, I followed up to make sure that the construction holdback was in place. And hearing from his admin assistant that I quote unquote didn't have a construction holdback was a big surprise to me. And then she made the second mistake, which she said, well, typically we wait for the seller's lawyer to tell us which account to deposit the funds to. Now, of course, that implies that it's going into the seller's lawyer's account, which is the wrong place. Again, a construction holdback protects you, the buyer, because you're the one, you already have cash. You're putting it in a safe place in your lawyer's account to say, yes, the funds exist, but you don't get to have them until you, the seller, finish your work. And that's where my lawyer and his team made a bit of a mistake, because they should have been holding on to those funds, but instead they actually sent those funds to the seller's lawyer, and they didn't actually have control of them anymore, which really defeated the purpose of a construction holdback, because that construction holdback is supposed to protect me, not protect the seller. So those were just two situations where the same item was overlooked, and that actually caused a lot of headache and a lot of grief for me later on. And so, these are just things that you just want to make sure that your lawyer is paying very close attention to. And yeah, you just want to make sure that you get a lawyer who does have really good attention to detail. They have a very small role in the process, but if they miss any of those items, it can be a big deal. As always, if you're trying to figure out who a good lawyer might be, it's always helpful just to reach out to your colleagues, your friends, your family, people who have bought houses recently, and see if they have a lawyer that they would recommend. Make a post to your Facebook group and figure out if there's anybody there that is a lawyer or knows a lawyer perhaps. Find somebody that people that you know have worked with before and that they speak highly of. And specifically, if they have moments where that lawyer went above and beyond, give that a higher weighting, because when things go sideways, that's where people's true character shines through. And you're going to want a lawyer who goes to bat for you when things do go sideways, if they go sideways, rather than somebody who is too busy or can't be bothered or tries to say that, it was somebody else's mistake. So in summary, the lawyer spends most of their time just watching you sign a lot of documents. They'll explain some of these documents to you before you sign them. But the really big difference between a great lawyer and a bad one is how much attention to detail they are putting into your particular contract and making sure that they understand all the details of your agreement just as well as you do. And with that, thank you so much for watching. If you learned something in this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to post them in the comments area below. And if you felt like you know somebody who might benefit from this video, please don't hesitate to share it. Thank you so much for your support, and see you in the next video.